That's why Elon is such a big deal. All throughout 2020, Elon was launching all these satellites with the Space Force. So this is why liberals look even more marble-headed, because they're sitting there whining, complaining about Elon, and he's sitting there protecting the whole world with his systems and the Space Force and all these systems that are collecting data the correct way. So you got to trust someone at the end of the day. And how you trust them is educating yourself with the things that matter. You are the government. We are the government. These representatives represent us. But it's a mutual reciprocality. They're supposed to be doing what they're doing because you don't want to be a House representative. You don't want to be a senator. You don't want to be a president. You don't want to be, most of you don't, right? So it's a reciprocality. If you're knowing and studying and learning and knowing what you're supposed to be doing and they're doing it, it'll be reciprocal. They won't be pulling anything over you, because when you're empowered and you know what you're supposed to know, then you'll be able to pick out the ones that ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The other thing is they will be sitting in a glass box from here out. What President Trump has done to the offices, plural, out there, he's made it to where they're going to be sitting in a glass box. Meaning they're going to be there for the right reasons, and they're going to be able to field questions for the right reasons, and they should field questions and give you the correct responses. But you won't know the correct response if you don't know the correct knowledge. Should I keep preaching? Do you want to listen to that line again? You won't know the correct response if you don't know the correct knowledge. And the correct knowledge is not drama. It's not propaganda. It's not all these other things out there. Because most of these podcasters, they're just new faces and new names, claim to be independent, claim to be all these things. And all they're doing is regurgitating opinions. They're not giving you sources. They're not writing books with laws and orders. They're not writing strategies. They're not strategists like me. They're not strategists or anything of that nature, right? They're not doing this. This is top of my head, right? I took the laws and orders, but then I show you all the strategies and tactics of irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, asymmetrical warfare, all the different forms of warfare, right? I wrote that off the top of my head. These people are not doing that, and it's what leads to confusion. But most of you are Christians. What does the Bible say? It says that God's not the author of confusion. So why are you listening to people who confuse you? You shouldn't be. You should be listening to people who empower you. And the people out there spreading false information about President Trump and Dan Scavino and Don Jr., Eric, me, all the ones out there saying we're all these different things and we're pawns and we're this and we're that. It's because they're marbleheads and they don't even know the laws and the orders. They're too dumb to break down the laws and orders. So what do they got to do? They got to spread all this false stuff because they're too dumb to do anything else. And you shouldn't be listening to those people. We're in a military operation. Therefore, you need military personnel and or federal personnel that knows what's going on. That are free to talk. I'm free to talk. Right? So Palantir compiling data from existing contracts. It's real simple. And then your Army, Navy transfers all communications to the Space Force. Now watch how it ties in. Executive Order 13959 from November the 12th, 2020, the one that hammered the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist military, it had sanctions in there, sanctioning U.S. security companies like, stocks, bonds, anything of that nature, for funding the Chinese Communist military, the People's Republic of China. So if you go read that executive order, it was signed November the 12th, 2020. I got the 2012 mixed up with my head, but the 2020, all right, the good year that everybody was confused with all the face diapers and all the other stuff that they were doing to you, face diaper this, and go get your line up and go stand there and get your little tranquilizer and all that other stuff. Yeah, when you were too busy focused on that, this took place. But if you go read that executive order, the actual application of it says what? January the 11th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Boy, that's pretty specific. Woo, January the 11th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when it went into effect. And immediately after January the 11th, 2021, guess what you witnessed if you were paying attention in the finance world? Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon. for philanthropy reasons, oh yeah, I bet. When I was doing my master's degree at Colorado State University in business, we studied Jeff Bezos because he wanted to overtake the gross domestic product sales of, well, profits really, not just sales. He wanted to take over the GDP and be the world's leader in GDP over Walmart. So he invested in Whole Foods. He wanted to apply his Amazon logistics to Whole Foods. All right. So he wanted to be the world's leader in GDP. And all of a sudden, this guy who had that big vision is stepping down for quote unquote philanthropy reasons. Bezos, Warren Buffett. You had Warren Buffett dropping stocks and different things of that nature. Bill Gates left and Warren Buffett left the Bill Gates Foundation. Bill Gates and his wife announced divorce. All right. And then you had GameStop and all these different people losing their rear ends. You had GameStop, a typical company you wouldn't see or really care about unless you do know about them. They're having commercials on the Super Bowl that year, trying to save their rear ends. All right, all these different Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune this company started bellying up. And that was a coincidence? And all these big name people that were all over major Democrat donors were all of a sudden dumping stock. Mark Zuckerberg, for about 7 months, somewhere in there, I think it's 7 months, he dumped 25 million a single day, every day, for 7 months. Then you saw him meet with President Trump after that, not too long after it. People, this is not that difficult. And now the libtards are mad because they saw Zuckerberg, they saw Bill Gates, they've seen Bezos, Tim Cook of Apple with President Trump. And they say, oh, they're traitors and they've turned on us. No, capitulation. They capitulated. Because they may not have been doing anything that was crimes against humanity or something that would have required a death penalty. It could have been something very drastic, sure. But they capitulated. You'll find out that later. So that's why all the patriots out there, you need to take a chill pill. What they're doing right now is a slow roll. And then it's painful. I get it. But it's for the normie world out there. The normie world who can't even comprehend something so simple. But it's because of their priorities. Their priorities are in football. Their priorities are in reality TV. Their priorities are in things that just don't matter. Right? At the end of the day. But you got to give it to them the way they want it. And President Trump's told you. You got to give them what they want. And unfortunately, what they want is drama. So you have to do that. So just chill. That's what y'all need to be doing. Taking a chill pill. So that's how Palantir ties into everything. And so, again, the slow roll is due to low IQs. Now, you can strengthen your IQ out there. But only you can do that. It's like I tell people, I can explain it to you, but I can't make you understand it. All right, so it goes back to all the people out there. Like I'm saying, they're taking so when a guy like me puts this out here, I'm coming straight from Department of War, and then also what I do and who I'm working with. That's all credible. All right, and then also President Trump's laws and orders that he's invoked, the enforcement of those, my military, and then all that combined. And then showing it to you, which is what part 2 is. This is why it's so much bigger, because this is the special operations portion. It's 593 pages. But most of it is special operations. Irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, how to think outside the box. Once you have a solid foundation in our functions, our 3 branches of government, it shows you how to think strategically, but tactically in another form. Once you have a solid foundation, you can think a lot of different things, and that's what strengthens your empowerment skills and your application of it. All right, that's what this is. Part 2 does sum up the inauguration and stuff of 2025, but it's up to date there. But then it gets heavy into special operations, heavy into unconventional warfare, heavy into irregular warfare, heavy into the things that you ask, and you hear people ask, maybe you're afraid to ask at events and things, but you'll hear people ask, what would this look like? And what would that look like? And This answers a lot of that. All right. Now, you can't put everything in a book because people wouldn't read it. It would be longer than Obamacare, But that is how you strengthen your skills. But what you got to do is also realize that you control what you put in your life. And too many people, because there's so many names and faces out there, and everybody wants to be a name, everybody wants to be a face. Majority of the podcasters out there, they want to be the first to say it. Well, being first, this ain't a race. You hear Ricky Bobby and Talladega Nights or whatever it is, where it's, you ain't first, you're last. It ain't that when it comes to military and operations. Because in military operations, sometimes there's things called retreats and then flanks. All right, so a lot of these podcasters are trying to get lucky with one little thing and make you flood over there because they were correct on one thing. It's not about being correct on one thing. It's about getting it correct for all of us. And so when President Trump's hammering the mainstream media, we don't need to replace it with all these other babbling fools out there who are just trying to get lucky on one thing for a quick buck or a quick fix or whatever it is in their life. All right? We have got to eliminate all that. We have to, but you control that. Because all you got to do is unsubscribe from them, unfollow them. Quit watching them. If you comment and share their stuff, that gives them more views. It brings more people to it. You need to have the quality people in your life that empower you. Make you think. Make you think better. Think sharper. Think quicker. Impromptu. Improvise. Things of that nature. You've got to sharpen that. So you allow what you allow in your life. That's why I'm going to address one example out there. When you hear these podcasters say the deep state are in panic, how are they in panic? When you look at 21 to 25 again, why would quote unquote Joe and the whole DNC, if they were real, why would they expand but also continue all of President Trump's executive orders with national emergencies of election interference, Hong Kong, combating trafficking, all the other things that's going on, Doge, all the orders of ICE, all the orders of the National Guard? Why didn't they terminate anything? It's like literally, it feels like if you could, like if your brain was a piece of ice, right? And you all of a sudden put your brain near a fire and it's melting. That's what it feels like when you're sitting here and you know what I know, and you hear people out there saying the deep state are in panic. And you're going, okay, well, why did the deep state continue 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that all apply to the military, the National Guard, Joe, the Ho, and the DNC didn't have a single Title 10, Title 14, Title 32, but the border was still going on. The National Guard were operating in cities that people didn't realize what they were doing, but they could have, and a lot of people did see it. So a lot of people questioned, man, I saw this National Guard rolling in on a weekday. What are they doing? The New York National Guard and the subways. You had President Trump at the border in February 2024, which would have been a breach of national security. It could have also been perceived as a seditious act to overthrow the government, that you would have a quote-unquote former president standing at the border with the National Guard deploying weekly and monthly before and after President Trump. He's standing there with the Adjutant General who reports to the governor unless the National Guard are federalized by Title 10. And the only Title 10 order at that place was February the 20th, 2019, and also March 27th, 2020, by President Donald John Trump, both of them. And he's standing there with the governor of Texas. And then when he walks into the forward operating base, the FOB, they do, attention. You don't salute a former president. You don't salute a former commander, period. And then you had April to December 2024, President Trump met with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times at a private location, Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago. That would have been a violation of the Logan Act, which is Title 18, federal crimes. So they're trying to hammer him for being with a hooker 30-something years ago? False accusations and all these other things.